Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
Fear is a powerful motivator. When faced with imminent death, real or imagined, even the laziest and most out-of-shape couch potatoes find it in them to sprint to safety. Fear isn't nearly as effective as desire for tasks that require intelligence, like drawing a picture or writing software. But for low-level fight-or-flight reactions that don't require much reflection, like getting a nation to go to war, for example, fear gets the job done. This state of affairs has never been lost on politicians, dictators, and strategists. They understand that the public, like a flock of sheep, is often easier to corral in a given direction by having a menacing dog nip at their heels than by trying to sell them on visions of wonderful green grass waiting for them on the other side of the hill. Especially when there clearly is no green grass on the other side of the hill. Of course, it wouldn't do to have the rulers themselves play the role of the dog. If they did, then they would be the ones that ended up feared and distrusted. This works for a while, but it's not stable. Rulers, like shepherds, need others to play that role. They need boogeymen, terrifying enemies lurking in the shadows, right next door or in a distant land, so that the rulers can play the role of the valiant protector, the mommy and daddy that you never outgrow. Don't worry, you don't need to think. Your mommy and daddy, the state, will take care of this. All you have to do is obey. And such phantoms aren't readily available. They're manufactured or blown out of proportion, like an ant turned into a science fiction monster by zooming in with a magnifying glass. The specter of Islamic terrorism is a combination of these two, manufactured and exaggerated. Manufactured? Oh, please. You're not trying to tell me that the United States created Al-Qaeda, are you? Actually, yes, I am saying that. This is a historical fact. It's not even up for debate.
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago.
We funded, armed, and trained Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan the same way that we're currently funding, arming, and training Al-Qaeda in Syria right now, and for the same reasons. Osama bin Laden was literally on the CIA's payroll. We even know his code name, Tim Osman. The documents are declassified. This isn't rocket science, people. This information is easily available to the public if you're willing to do a little of your own research. Let's look at another example. In 1980, the U.S. funded and armed Saddam Hussein to assist in his invasion of Iran. We gave him missile technology, chemical weapons precursors, and biological weapons. The same weapons that he used against the Kurds. The U.S. government knew full well what he was doing, and yet they said nothing. That is, until they needed an excuse to invade 20 years later. That's when it was convenient to build up his boogeyman status, to puff up the American population with a strange mixture of fear and bravado. Fear because there was a big bad man who posed an imminent threat to the American people. Bravado because mommy and daddy were going to take care of the problem with big guns and smart bombs. Don't you worry, we'll take out that evil Saddam. Just sit tight, wave your flags, and don't ask too many questions. Don't mind the civilians dying by the truckload. Don't mind the brutal tortures being perpetrated in Abu Ghraib prison. Don't mind the fact that they used this phantom threat to completely eviscerate the Constitution. Just keep waving your flags and repeat after me. USA! 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 That's right, let's make patriotism about death and destruction. Let's sacrifice our freedoms to protect ourselves against these savages who hate us for our freedoms. Yeah, that's a ticket. I'm proud to be an American, 'cause at least I know I'm free. Of course, this charade has been going on long before America's War of Terror. The previous boogeyman was communism, that red menace that was spreading across the globe like cancer. Our only hope was to drop democracy, freedom, and napalm all over the world. When a good excuse to open up a can of democracy on someone didn't exist, we just made one up. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, for example. The attack on the USS Maddox that the United States claimed occurred on August 4th, 1964, the attack that was used as the pretext to start the Vietnam War, was completely fabricated. It never happened. The U.S. Navy's own historical website acknowledges this now. These historical facts aren't even a point of controversy or debate at this point, but if you had told the truth back then, you would have been considered an unhinged wingnut, a conspiracy theorist. That was 39 years ago. Those 58,000 Americans that were killed and the hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese that were killed don't matter now, do they? I mean, who cares? This is just history. Water under the bridge. What does it matter that the US government put together detailed plans to blow up one of their own passenger jets over Cuba? A plan explicitly crafted to lay the blame on Castro and to build public support of an invasion. This was called Operation Northwoods. Again, it's declassified. The US government doesn't deny it. Look it up. You can find the full document easily online. But really, why are we even talking about this? Clearly this kind of thing only happened in the early days of the CIA. Now the government has grown out of this. Now the government can be trusted. Right. So why does this matter? Why are we still talking about this? Because it still works. Problem, reaction, solution. Those in power create a problem, stimulate public outrage, and channel it towards a solution that suits their purposes. Whether that be new laws that give them more power, or a war of aggression that they couldn't sell if they told the truth. They keep pulling the same trick on you over and over again, like a school bully, tricking a mentally disabled kid out of his lunch money. They'll keep at it as long as you let them, until you wake up, until you start to see the pattern and the fog lifts from your brain. Better wake up quickly though, because these psychopaths, these so-called powers that be, are building up to something big. I can't tell you what that event will be, and I can't tell you when it's going to happen. But I can tell you what they're going to use it for. To expand the wars and to take away more of your freedoms. We may not be able to prevent whatever event is going to be used as a pretext, but we can work to influence the reaction. And if they don't control the reaction, if they aren't able to maintain control of the dialogue, if they aren't able to get you quivering in your collective boots about the big bad men in the Middle East, these Islamic terrorists in caves, or these anti-government extremists in your midst, then this could very well backfire and actually wake more people up. But in order for that to happen, you're going to have to get off the sidelines and join the fight.